Dominate on three. One, two, three.
Hi, my name is Brianna Garman.
Hey, I'm Ashante Thompson.
Hi, my name is Leah Francis.
There are two main points of emphasis on shooting the basketball: the shot itself and the spin on the ball. First of all, let's establish two different types of shots: the jump shot and the layup. For the jump shot, there is little horizontal movement because the jump shot deals more with vertical movement. The ball itself is pushed off of his or her fingertips and the force and angle is applied upon release. The layup, however, is a shot based on more momentum. The velocity on the ball is the sum of the shooter's speed and the ball speed. So on the case of a layup, the ball doesn't need as much force and is basically dropped into the basket, especially in a dunk. It is known that in physics that the mass of an object multiplied by the velocity of the object equals the linear momentum of the object. It is also known that the momentum divided by the time it takes the object to impact is equal to the net force the object will have upon impact. In other words, by the player catching the ball with arms extended and slightly bent elbows and allowing their arms to slow down the ball before hitting their chest, they are increasing the time it takes the ball to impact. Since the momentum is divided by the time in the formula discussed above, increasing the time will make the net force smaller when the ball is being received into the chest. This will result in a nice soft reception of the basketball and smaller chance that the ball will be dropped.
Frictional force is created whenever two surfaces move across each other. In relations to basketball, when the sole of the player's shoes make contact with the court, frictional force is being created. Frictional force is also essential when the player is crossing over his or her opponent. As you saw in the video, Iverson exerted the applied force with his left foot, and with kinetic friction, he was able to come to a stop and quickly switch over to the other side. Static friction. Static friction is the friction between a stationary object and the surface it is on. This comes into play when the player starts to run up and down the court. Lastly, rolling friction. Rolling friction is a resistance force that opposes the rolling motion of an object. This occurs when the basketball rolls around the rim or rolls on the court floor.
Shoulder sideways, smack it in the air. Legs move it side to side, smack it in the air. Legs move it side to side, smack it in the air. Shoulder sideways, smack it in the air.
A rule that physicists discovered is that energy is conserved, which means you cannot create or destroy energy, but you can change it into different forms. When the ball is held up, it has a lot of potential and kinetic energy. As it falls, it starts losing its potential energy and speeds up to get more kinetic energy. When it hits the floor, it has no potential energy, but lots of kinetic energy. When the ball hits the floor, the ball bounces back up to a height lower than it started. So after one bounce, it has less potential energy to conserve. When the ball hits the ground, it gets squished, which causes friction between the different rubber molecules that make up a ball. And the friction heats the ball up. Because friction slows down the ball, it has lost some kinetic energy. And because it has heated up, it has gained some heat or thermal energy. The harder something is, the more thermal energy it has. When we see the ball bounce back up almost to its original height, we know that it is always a little bit lower than it started because it has transformed some of that original potential energy to thermal energy.
Shoulder sideways, smack it in the air.
It may not seem like it, When a player goes up to dunk the ball, the person's body has to follow the same laws of projectile motion just like any other object. When watching some players dunk the ball, it is almost as if they hang in the air and break the laws of physics. Even though it may seem like it is not true. The height of the jump depends on the force the jumper uses when they push off of the ground. The harder the jumper pushes, the higher and the longer they will be in the air. To get a hang time of 1 second, the jumper will have to have a vertical leap of 4 feet, which is very high even for professional basketball players. One of the greatest dunkers ever is Michael Jordan. He had some tips or tricks that he used to maximize his jumps. One of them was that he held on to the ball longer and actually placed it in the hoop. Another thing he did was put his legs up to make it look as if he was higher in the air. Both these things made it look like he was jumping higher and breaking the laws of physics.
Projectile. A projectile is an object that is being propelled. When the ball has a force exerted onto it, the ball is projected horizontally and vertically. If the shot technique is done properly, then the basketball will be able to rotate and elevate into the net. The arc caused by the basketball is a result of gravitational force pulling down on the basketball. This is an example of Newton's first law of motion. Newton's first law of motion states that an object will stay in motion in a straight line until a force is exerted onto it.
We got London on the track.
Whoa. Yeah, man, T.I.P.
Right from the beginning of the season, one of the biggest stories in the league
To the max
has been
minute.
the ascendance of
Rex.
Houston's James
I count
Harden.
6 shots.
Gussin' out the bando. Jury real metal like a candle. I went from rag to riches to a feature with tip. I went from smart car to a with some smart lips. And that Epiphany make my hip limp. I'm going fishing with these little bitty strip dips. And my bankroll kinda big dip. Woo. She gon' bring it on a big ship. Quite trail, no quick trip. I got dubs in the alley, no tip. Yeah. She just wanna have a good day. Smoke way more weed than the guy in LA. I hold them birds till next May. Damn, never let them fly away. What? Hey, listen what my tips say. Hey, yeah.
Don't be blowing.